So I got the AMC running, and it moves. I rebuilt the carburetor and did all the ignition components, rebuilt the distributor, and all that kind of stuff, and ordered a ton of parts for it. Dropped about $1,000 on just all kinds of miscellaneous things. And then I got to the point where I needed to mess with the charging system. I was getting about 17 volts with the car idling, and that's no good. So I wanted to not really idle the car too much more. But I was looking down at the alternator, and it was flopping all over the place. And I found out that this bracket was broken. So there's 2 ears obviously missing that one has. And so the only thing holding the alternator to the car itself was that 1 bolt that goes through here and goes into the water pump. That's pretty much it. These just hold the alternator. But yeah, somebody has brazed this thing before, which is super strange to me because that's not going to work. This repair looks like it's held up. These 2 pieces were brazed on. This one was made almost entirely of brass. Very strange kind of repair. So luckily I was able to find one online. And here's how we're looking here. I was lucky enough to find a super cool guy with tons of AMC parts. And I got some stuff from him. I got these 2 headlight surrounds. They're actually on the car now. And a few other things. So here's how this is looking. So there's the original alternator. It has an ear broken off of it. You can see right there. So I was able to find an alternator and both of these headlight surrounds. I was missing the little lens right here on the driver's side. But I went ahead and bought both of those, and then I got a grill anyway. I didn't really need one. And then I got this mounted to the car. All this was put on with zip ties. There was some kind of collision here. So I had to take all this apart, take all that apart. I took that apart just so I could find the correct hardware and stuff to assemble all of this. But yeah, you can see all the ignition components were done. I haven't even changed the oil or filter yet. I did rebuild the carburetor, and I put a fuel pump on it. I also had to clean out a fuel line and all that. So I'm a little worried about fuel tank because of how bad the fuel line and the carburetor were. I know the lines going back to the tank are probably completely plugged. And I don't know that they make reproduction tanks for this car. But that's pretty much where we're at. Unfortunately, I broke this carburetor as soon as I rebuilt it. Obviously, I didn't really clean up the outside that much, but the inside is all brand new. And what I did was I put a spacer on here, and it was a soft spacer. I got longer hardware to go with it. The problem that I ran into was the soft spacer wasn't completely flat. It was a little thicker in the middle, I think. And so when I was tightening it down, I heard a crack, and that ear right there cracked. Seriously, I mean, I was extremely upset. I had just finished rebuilding that thing, which already is a waste of time. Like, who rebuilds a 2100 2-barrel? It just seems like a waste of time. The correct fix would have been to put a 4-barrel intake on here and a 4-barrel carb. The problem is, they are, I guess I wouldn't say hard to find. They're just very expensive. A 4-barrel manifold for this, the Edelbrock Performer, is like $500. And that's more than I got the entire car for. And there are tons of other systems that I need to go through first before I can justify spending that much money on there. You know, like I have to go through the whole brake system because none of that works. So I did go ahead and put a new master cylinder on. I have new shoes and rebuild kit in the rear. I found that I have discs in the front, which is kind of cool. So I've got to rebuild the calipers up front. I have that kit and pads and rotors and wheel bearings and all that kind of stuff. So what else have I done? I did fix up the doors. This door had a lot of problems. You couldn't close it all the way. Whenever you closed it, it would always kind of bounce back like that. And it ended up being sort of bent. I don't know if it was the hinges or what, but I was able to bend that back, realign this whole section here so it all works, and then I rebuilt the door internals. That handle was broken off and the latches were all seized up. So, tons of parts and boxes that I need to put on. And I did get a set of tires and an extra set of wheels for this thing. So I need to go get the tires put on and then I'll paint them. I didn't go with anything big or cool. At the Pate swap meet, somebody had these 4 tires. They're 195/70 14s, which is, I think, pretty much the stock size. And I think he only wanted $140 for them, $150. I can't remember exactly what I paid. So I was like, for rolling around, getting the car going, that price is great. And I just said I didn't want to spend 500 bucks in an intake, but check that sucker out. So this was the only AMC part at the entire paint swap meet. I feel like I spent 2 days there looking everywhere, and this is the only thing that I found. And for the only thing being found, it's pretty dang cool. This is an original Offenhauser dual quad intake. They call Offenhauser had a thing they called the 360 intakes, and this is one of them. So they had a single 4-barrel and a dual. And you know, the guy wanted 500 bucks, which is crazy. This intake by itself is $900 before tax, if you can even get it, which you can't because they're discontinued. So I was like, oh man, super cool, rare part. It already has the Holley conversion adapters on there, which I thought was way cool. And then we've got 2 450 CFM Holley carbs, and these are meant to run in duals, kind of the way that they're made. I won't go into all the specifics, but they're very easy to tune compared to other carburetors that are not meant to run in dual. I also got this, which is kind of cool, brand new dwell meter. It's never been used. All the attachments and wires are in the back. The guy I bought it from had no clue even what it was. And so I kind of explained it to him, but I was really excited to get that. So I think if I continue with the AMC, I really need to do the important stuff like brakes and, you know, the stuff to make the car run and drive. I think once it's running and driving, I'm pretty sure we're going to stick that on there. And what I'll do is I want to get 2 4-inch carb spacers and do a poor man's tunnel ram. I think that would be super sick. And then we'll get the Hillborn scoop on top. And since it's an Ambassador and nobody cares about these cars except me, I'll go ahead and cut a hole in the hood. So I'll just, you know, cut it out there, and we'll have the Crusher Impala style Ambassador, even though we've only got a 304. So no power, but it'll be super cool. I think it'll be a super fun build, and it'll make this car to where people will actually maybe like it a little bit. Because if you saw this car going down the road, you'd have no clue what it was and you really wouldn't care. So I think I want to do that. The dual quad intake with the spacers, and then I think it'd be really cool to get some Corvette side pipes and stick them on here. Today I'm working on the brake system for the AMC. I've gotten a lot of little things done on it here and there. I got the front end fixed up because this was all held together with zip ties. So I pulled this whole assembly right here apart, as well as that one. I really just pulled that one apart so I could get the hardware that I needed, but also these little plastic adjuster clip thingies were cracked on 2 of the headlight housings. I was lucky enough to find a full set and kind of mixed and matched pieces to get non-cracked ones on all 4 of my headlight housings. Also, this piece right here was missing on this car. Come to find out, it was actually crunched in this aluminum headlight bezel, whatever you want to call it, was busted. So I got 2 replacement ones. They were both in pretty decent shape. Just cleaned them up and stuck them on there. And then while all that was apart, I've got all the hardware sizes so I can install this section over here. Getting this back on was kind of a pain in the butt. I think this fender was a little bit damaged maybe before, but also it was really hard to get hardware and nuts on the back of this fender that bolts to without taking the whole fender off. So I've got an alternator that we're going to put on, new alternator bracket that you guys saw. But most importantly and foremost today, we're going to work on brakes. New master cylinder is already in. I just barely have the lines kind of threaded in there. I'll pull them out because I want to blow out all the brake lines. So from here down to the proportioning valve, hopefully I can get all those loose. I've been lucky enough to get all the brake lines and brake hardware bolts loose. I got new wheel bearings in, the new rotors yesterday. Got all that stuff packed in, and then new soft lines on both sides here in the front. So I need to blow everything out from there before I hook up the calipers. And then back here, everything actually looks pretty good. Somebody had been into the brakes for sure, they just didn't do a good job. So I'm just going to replace the shoes and reuse all the hardware hopefully and replace the wheel cylinders. I did install the new flexible line in the middle of the axle there. But yep, that's the plan for today. Blowing out brake lines, cleaning everything up, and then I'll be bench bleeding, which I mean, it's not really bench bleeding, it's already in the car, but I'll, you know, do a master cylinder bleed with a little Dorman kit that I use on there. So yep, that's pretty much how we're looking. And then once all the brakes work, I'll hook up the gas can to this thing again, go ahead and run it and see if I can get a good tune-up on it with the carburetor and the timing. And then after that's done, we'll figure out the fuel tank. I really hope the fuel tank isn't totally stopped up, but there's really no telling. I think I'm going to have a hard time finding a replacement, so cleaning the tank is going to be what we've got to do. But that'll be, like I said, after brakes and tune-up. And then after that, we'll go ahead and do the steering column repair that I've been putting off for a while. Where is that column? I don't even know where it is. Somewhere in here. But yeah, so we'll do that. And then wheels and tires. I got new lug nuts and new wheels all around and new tires. I also got a spare grill. Should clean up okay. I'll probably just clean it up and sell it. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with that. I was thinking it may be kind of cool to do sort of a blackout package or whatever you want to call it on this car. Maybe take all the chrome and black it out with something like Plasti Dip. That way I can just remove it if I don't like it. Well, I say just remove it. It is a lot more work than people make it sound. But anyway, we would do black top instead of the brown, and then go over all the chrome, you know, like the grill and the trim and all that kind of stuff, and black it out. So, I don't know. May look cool. We may not actually go through with it. But that's what we're doing today. Here are the brake calipers. I did kind of a sloppy rebuild on them. Just replaced the seals. There's one seal down underneath there, and then the bellows or boot, whatever you want to call it, in the front of the piston here. And then I just kind of cleaned the rest of it up with a wire wheel. Didn't really go too hardcore into it. Replaced the little grommets or bushings on all four corners, and then we'll just slap it back together. Well, I've got the proportioning valve back in. Went ahead and completely disassembled and cleaned that. Luckily, it came out pretty easily. There were 4 different size wrenches needed to take those lines off. It was kind of ridiculous. 3/8, half, 7/16, and 5/8. So, but got all the lines blown out. Didn't have any anything eventful. Luckily, they blew out just fine. So now I've just got these 2 disconnected. Got the calipers back on, and the lines just set loose. Now I'm working on rebuilding the back. I'm going to keep all the hardware, like I said, because it's all in good shape. I think someone had been in here before they parked the car. We're just going to change out, obviously, the wheel cylinders and the shoes themselves. So I'll get this side done, and then as soon as the other side's done, we can start putting some fluid in that master cylinder, and we'll be on the way to having some brakes. All the brakes, all 4 corners are rebuilt. I need to get a cap for that bearing there because it was just missing. But anyway, rebuilt the calipers, just finished greasing all the tie rods and ball joints that had fittings. Did the rear shoes. The rear drums were actually in really good shape. Someone had been messing with the brakes before they parked it. I don't know exactly what they were doing. It was weird that the calipers and the drums were both blue. I think someone had just put those rear drums on there and replaced a bunch of brake hardware and stuff like that. Master cylinder obviously has been in for a minute, but it's all bled. Have all the belt system back together. I got the new alternator in with the new alternator bracket. Not too big of a deal. Went ahead and fixed up some wiring, even though it looks still kind of like a mess. New belts, obviously. What else up top? That's pretty much it for up top. But all new brake parts all around. The problem that I ran into was when I was bleeding the brakes, all of a sudden I heard a little noise, and saw that I was losing fluid in the reservoir for the rear brakes. So one of these rear cylinders, I don't know if it was the driver or passenger side, was in the car when I bought it. And I don't know how long it had been there, 20 years? Something like that. So I only bought one because I had a new one in a box. And now I'm suspecting, like I said, I don't remember. I bet this was probably the one. So I looked underneath the car and I've got a mess there. I was hoping it was coming from the bleeder, but it was not. It's all inside the drum and all inside here on these brand new brakes. So I've got to get another wheel cylinder, and then the brakes will finally be done. One of the next things I've got to do after that is take these tires and the new, well, I say new, the used wheels that I bought from a friend of mine, Andrew, so I can have tires on this thing, and then it can start rolling around. Side note, I was gonna put the new column in today, when I ran into the brake problem that kind of stopped me on the progress I was making. But I don't think I want to get into that right now. I did go ahead and drain the oil, and the drain bolt and the pan were all stripped out, which was really frustrating. So I rethreaded both of those, put it back together. It felt like it went in pretty solid, actually. But I went ahead and put on some RTV. I don't like doing that, but kind of didn't really have a choice. And I don't really care at this point. So tomorrow or tonight, I'll fill it up with oil. Maybe I'll start doing carb and ignition tuning after that. I'm not exactly sure. There is something interesting going on with the exhaust that I want to show you down here. Okay, let's get the flashlight on. Okay, so here down on the driver's side downpipe, or whatever you want to call it, the piece that comes off of the manifold, the pipe here is crushed, very thin, and I don't know why. There's nothing above there that would make it need to be crushed, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. There's a weld over there on that side, and I don't even think I can call this a weld. It is just super crazy bad. I don't know if you can see on the other side, it's wide open, and there is so much flux core drippage. It's actually obstructed halfway through the pipe. So that's gonna have to be cut and sleeved. I was thinking I would just, cut it there and go ahead and sleeve it with a piece of 2-inch, or stick a piece of 1 7/8 inside it if it would fit. I'm kind of thinking all this exhaust is going to go away anyway, because, well, one, it's really quiet, and that's not cool, But also, I was thinking, man, it'd be super easy to just chop them here and turn them out this way, because how they fit up into the socket, they can actually be clocked. You can loosen the 2 flange bolts there, and you can turn the downpipes. And then I could come out right here, and then I could put some side pipes on it, and that would be super cool. So I don't know, I may do that. I'm not exactly sure. I can't stand exhaust leaks. So before I get to all that, who knows, I may just go ahead and fix that with a sleeve like I talked about. But yeah, that's pretty much how we're looking. We unfortunately, done with brakes besides that stupid wheel cylinder. And then I need to put oil in it and then get the tires on. And theoretically, the car should drive. We should be able to drive this thing around because the power steering worked and the alternator did work. It was just overcharging. So new alternator, higher amperage, which is nice. New regulator, so the electrical problem should be fixed, and we should be able to tune the carb and adjust the dwell on the points. I've had a little bit of trouble with the ignition system on the AMC. Even though I got it running and driving before, it ran awful. And I think I maybe figured out why. So whenever the car was together before I messed with it at all, the vacuum advanced diaphragm was about right there. And here just a couple days ago when I was trying to get everything tuned, the carburetor set and timing adjusted, I couldn't get enough advance out of it. I had to keep advancing the carburetor until this diaphragm was touching the engine block over there, or I guess the alternator bracket. And I couldn't get enough out of it. It was still way too retarded. On the balancer, I was a little bit worried that maybe the balancer had slipped and the mark just wasn't right. But even with the vacuum gauge, I could tell that the timing was just way too retarded. So what I did was took all the plug wires off and rotated the base right up in this direction. So right in the middle, I've got plenty of retard and advance left over to adjust things. Hopefully that will work, and I've got the spark plugs and everything properly aligned again. So next step is I've got all the vacuum ports plugged still and the vacuum gauge up. Hopefully this thing will run and I can get it timed in the current configuration. Also, the AC compressor was stuck on, so I think I found the wire for that and I have it disconnected now. I also went ahead and pulled the AC, one of the AC lines off, because this was kind of a pain to mess with over and over again when that AC line was over there. So let's see if this thing will fire up. Go ahead and hook up our timing light there. Timing light is also handy when you're diagnosing things if you don't have one of those little spark plug testers, so we can sit and watch this thing and wait till it actually fires. But I'm going to go ahead and pre-fill the float bowl. I think this thing is leaking down, even though I just rebuilt this carburetor. So maybe something's not perfectly seated, but I feel like every time I try to mess with this thing, it's empty still. Yeah, there we go. All right, so now that we know that's gonna work, let's go ahead and get our timing light back on there. So as this thing warms up, we can get our timing set. Hopefully the fuel pump and all that kind of stuff is working good enough to get this done. Okay, let's mess with our timing a bit. Nope. And the other way. Oh yeah! Yeah, something is going on with this carburetor. Even though I just rebuilt it, it is for sure draining out, which is really annoying. Alrighty, here we go. Almost. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to use two hands for this. Mess with the throttle maybe. I think our timing is okay. Should advance it a little bit more. All right, stay running. So, you guys can't see anything down there, I know that. I'm gonna give this a shot, see if I can get this thing in time. And then once it warms up, we can actually do some carburetor tuning. But it's running well enough to let it warm up here. I picked up a couple things over the weekend. We got a fuel cell, which I may or may not use. I did fix the trunk earlier today, and I picked up a nitrous kit from a guy. Got a little MSD controller, and we got both solenoids. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do with that. I had planned on running it on the Corolla Gambler car, but we may stick it in this thing, who knows. I still am not 100% sure what we're gonna do here. Well, today is the day. The AMC is gonna move and stop, hopefully, under its own power. So all the brakes are done. I replaced that one wheel cylinder on the passenger side there that kind of puked its guts out. And spent a good part of the day yesterday adjusting the dwell on getting the points all set up. Carburetor dialed in-ish. There's still a little bit of a problem with the accelerator pump, but I don't think I'm gonna pursue it. It runs good enough. I've even got the air cleaner on it, so turn the camera around, let you guys take a look. All right, well here we are. We've got it all together. I even left the battery on overnight so we could check for drains. I have a few things hooked up inside, like the blower motor, but a lot of stuff still doesn't work. Nothing on the dash works except the speedometer, and the fasten seatbelts light was working. The park lights work, but the headlights don't. I'm sure there's a bunch of fuses burnt out down there, so I'm sure one of those is just fuse related. I need to get a dust cap for this wheel bearing over here. Is off, but I'm about to throw these wheels on. I've got some brand new lug nuts, and we're gonna pull this thing out of the shop because the Corolla needs to come in to do some final prep work for the Red River Rollout Gambler here in about 2 weeks. So that's been my daily. It's not really intended, but I had a back issue that flared up right before a Gambler, and I had spent a ton of time working on the car, so I figured, oh, I'll just drive this dang thing every day. But I'm going to throw these wheels on, and we're going to give her a go. Ambassador is on the ground. It ran yesterday, so let's see if it'll run today. Don't know if the carburetor is leaking down, but we'll have to find out. Yeah, it's leaking down for sure. Just holding some throttle on it right now. Probably have to do this till it warms up. Alright, I'm trying to wait for this thing to warm up, so I'm just gonna drop it into gear at a little bit of a high idle. Because it is stinking up the shop. Oh man, those brakes are sticking hard. I wonder which one it is. It's not a parking brake. Let's see if we can go forward. Okay, it feels like it's that passenger rear. At least we can idle now. That's nice. Yeah, one of these brakes is super locked up. Oh, maybe it's a front. I don't know. I really think it's one of those back ones. Alright, see if we can figure out what's going on. Something is leaking oil all over the place. Oil adapter. Alright, let me jack it up and we'll see if we can figure out which one of these wheels is stuck. Well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but passenger side front wheel was rubbing on the brake caliper. I don't really understand how that's possible, but luckily I had a spare with a good tire, so we just put it on there. Alright, I'm gonna see if we can drive this thing around a bit. I'm not gonna close the hood all the way. So let's give it a go. See if it's any better this time around. Okay, here we go. And stop. Nice. Okay, first time this has driven and stopped on its own. Pretty sure since 1999 or 2000. Yeah. All right, well, we're not gonna go too far. See if I can at least drive this thing down the road, down to like one cul-de-sac. Man, the power steering is amazing. So much better than later model stuff. All these 70s cars, man, the power steering was incredible. All right, we should have enough gas to go around the block here, so start off in first gear. Second gear. Third gear. And back to second. Man, super cool. Alright, stop sign's coming up. I don't have blinkers or hazards. The hazard button got stuck in the column, so I just pulled the flasher for it. It's not worth fixing because this whole column is about to come out anyway. Alright, I'm not going to get on it at all until I'm back on my road, right in front of my house. This is like my little test drive route, because there's a cul-de-sac down here, so worst case, if I break down, at least I'm not blocking any traffic, because no one's going to be coming down here unless they live here. It'd be nice to have a working temp gauge, so I'll probably work on that next. I don't know if I'll try to fix this one or if I'll just put in an auxiliary one. Also, I noticed my brights switch is missing down there on the floor. The wire is just there and the wiring is cut. So I don't know if maybe somebody used it for something. I'm not sure why else you would just cut it out instead of unplugging it. Alright, back in first gear here. Going up to second. Well, working pretty good. I'm gonna have to fine tune my choke. I think the car would have run better if the carburetor was in better shape. I just really don't want to waste too much more time on the little 2-barrel, especially if we're going to swap out those dual quads and stick them on here. For a little more beans there. All right, here's a faster stop from about 20 miles an hour. Yeah, the pedal's really stiff, but it is working. All right, we'll drop her down to first. All right, I'm gonna get on it a bit. Okay, so yeah, our squirter definitely isn't working because I've really got to ease into it or kind of feather it up there. Something's going on with the accelerator pump. Because yeah, as soon as I tip it, it just gets really lean and wants to die for a second. Hood's not latched, so I don't want to go too fast. Well, cool. I'm going to circle back around. We'll park this thing at the house. Well, the AMC is once again parked in the backyard until it gets its time to shine once again. Whole lot better than when it went in the shop about 2 months ago, and actually running, driving, and stopping. So next time around, we're going to be addressing the fuel system for sure. This thing still needs a fuel tank or a fuel cell. Who knows? Maybe I can get that tank to clean up, but the condition at the fuel pump and fuel lines in the engine bay were really, really bad. So I'm not super hopeful about the rest of the system. But at least at this point, the car can be driven and moved under its own power. Let me know what you think we should do next. Should we go ahead and do the dual quad intake with the carb stacks and everything? I think that would be super cool. And also, if we do that, we're definitely doing some side pipes. The exhaust is all trashed anyway, so it'd be a good opportunity to do something cool. Let me know in the comments, what do you think we should do about it? I'd love to hear your AMC experience, if you have any, because like I said, this is the first time around for me that I have worked on one of these cars. I don't think I've ever owned one. I don't remember if I have. Maybe a quick flip or something like that in the past. Well, all right, we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.